It looks as though the soap opera is over for the time being. It looks as though we are finally going to get Ryan Garcia versus Devin Haney. Man, think about all the little twists and turns we got in this one. Right back when they were first talking about making it happen. Then all of a sudden we see the fight negotiations just fall off a cliff and Ryan Garcia is walking around talking about how he thought it was going to be Haney Garcia when really it was always going to be Garcia Haney. We see him out there jogging with Floyd and then all of a sudden it's going to be him and Rolly Romero. And that fight makes sense. It makes sense, right? When you think about the fact that, hey, go out there, get that fight, the lowest hanging fruit that you can possibly think when you're talking about a world championship belt. Rolly Romero, 145 pounds. You snatch up that belt, that gives you more leverage in the fight. Makes sense, right? So when you think about it, you're like, oh man, he's out there, he's jogging with Floyd at 3 o'clock in the morning. He's getting a little bit of game spitting in his ear. Now all of a sudden he wants to go out there and get a belt and then all of a sudden use that. And then, great. It's going to turn out this way. And then all of a sudden, we hear the major announcement, right? We all knew that it was going to be PBC. They're going to be working with Amazon Prime. When's the fight going to happen? Who's going to be headlining it? How we're going to see things? And then we see Rolly Romero and Isak Cruz get mentioned on the first card, March 30th, right? Co-main event. Well, that takes Rolly out of the equation. So now what we get? All of a sudden, we see Ryan Garcia making his way in the interviews, man. We see him out there with Valuetainment. We see him out there with a good long interview with Fight Hype, and he's talking about he got mistreated here, and he thought about how things were going to be here, and he's got to make the fight here, and he's not going to lose anymore, and he's so focused, and I've been destined for greatness since I was 7 years old, and my uncle foreseeing it was told in the stars, and all these different things that he's talking about in these interviews, right? Lo and behold, April 20th. We're going to see him and Devin Haney step in the ring again. It certainly appears as though the deal is finalized. Everybody's talking about it. We're seeing these dudes beefing. Let me say this, man. Let me say a few things. Number one, my hat's off to Ryan Garcia. My hat's off to the man, truly. We are coming off an era, and it was an extended period of time, where the top fighters didn't want to fight the other top fighters. Guys that were on the come up did not want to fight other dangerous guys on the come up. What we saw was an era defined for the most part by fighters that avoided other fighters. They wanted to pad their records. They wanted to remain undefeated. They wanted to just build their image. They thought even the controversy of a potential loss in any way, shape, or form was going to completely diminish them with the fans. It was going to diminish their drawing power. It was going to diminish their earning power. It was going to do everything negative. So they did everything they could to avoid dangerous fights because they didn't want to get a loss. And they just let these fights marinate for as long as they possibly could. And then finally, when there was nothing left, they would try to take that fight as a cash out. Right? That was the formula that we saw build and execute for a little while. Horrible for the fans. Horrible, man, because we want to see fighters fight each other in their primes. When we think about the glory days and the greatest fights, we're talking about fighters in their primes, fighting each other in the biggest possible fights that you can imagine. So when we see a guy like Ryan Garcia, and I'm not saying he's the best or anything like that, but don't get me wrong, but what we're seeing is a guy who takes chances. We're seeing a guy who's got leverage and drawing power, right? We're talking about a sport that's driven by money. And the man pulls in money because he draws attention, because he's got fans, right? So we're talking about a guy who's got leverage. We're talking about a guy who's got the ability to dictate terms. We're talking about a guy who's got the ability to pick opponents. And he's not picking bums. We're talking about a guy who's going out there and he's picking big fights. He's picking boxing fights. He's picking real fighters. Because let me tell you, I don't think he's got much of a chance against Devin Haney. I think Devin Haney's going to go out there and he's going to put it on him. I think he's going to make it look easy when he does it. How's Ryan Garcia going to handle that jab? Arguably the best jab in the game. I think it's a phenomenal jab. Man, it's like a spear. It's fast, it's accurate, it's strong. He can double it up. He can use it going forward and backward. Everything that you want in a jab is what Devin Haney's got in his jab. How's Ryan Garcia even going to get past that? The very first line of offense. Even using it defensively, it's going to be that lead hand. How's he going to get past that? You know, you can talk about Devin Haney not having power, and it's true, right? He's going out there and he doesn't have the hardest punch in the division, no doubt about it. But he's strong. He's got a good size frame, man. He's got muscle on him. He's not a pushover. You're not going to go out there and bully him. Did you see what Ryan Garcia passed off as a shoulder roll in his last fight? We remember that, right? We remember what that looked like. We remember how in the middle of the fight we were talking about. We remember how Derrick James was talking about it. It wasn't exactly something that they were working on in camp. Said he's bringing it out. He's trying to figure it out. He's trying to do things. It was an interesting move, but how do you think that's going to match up when he steps in there against Devin Haney? Should he break out that move again? Should he decide it's time to use this as a period to on the biggest stage possible against an incredibly talented fighter, let me go ahead and try and mimic what I've seen Floyd Mayweather use to perfection. Let me go ahead and pretend that I'm James Toney, because I've seen James Toney use this and make it look beautiful. Man, not going to work out well for him. So I think Devin Haney, Haney's going to go out there, man, and he's going to be able to just tattoo Ryan Garcia with jabs and 1-2s. He's going to go to the body. He's going to step inside, man, and use that left hook. I mean, he's going to be able to small circle him in the way that he pivots around and moves and everything. Devin Haney's an incredibly talented fighter, man. Say what you want. Like, you can even look and say that he lost a fight against Lomachenko. It doesn't mean that he's not incredibly talented. You can say whatever you want about the guy. You can talk bad. You can say that he doesn't have the power. You can say that you don't like the way he conducts himself. You can talk bad about his pops and say that you don't like the way things started out and that he was bankrolling his career to get him publicity, whatever the case may be. And dude, none of that makes a difference. He bet on himself. He won. He went out there. He took the lower deal to get the belts. As soon as he did, he's got all the leverage. He's making the bigger fights. He's getting a payday in this one. And he's an incredibly talented young fighter. He's winning. And I think when he goes out there against Ryan Garcia, he's going to actually win that fight in a big way, along with currently winning his career. So my hat's off to Ryan Garcia for being willing to make these fights and step into them. And I think that this is going to be a big win for Devin Haney. So let me know what you guys think. Are you happy that all the back and forth is finally done and it looks like this one is finalized and basically the deal's done and it's going to be made? How do you think this one's going to turn out? You think it's going to be Devin Haney coming out with a dominant victory? Or, I mean, don't get me wrong, Ryan Garcia, man, very, very physically talented, right? He hits you with that left hook. He can hurt anybody. We saw the way Jorge Linares caught Devin Haney in between his punches, so anything's possible. But, man, isn't it tough to imagine Ryan Garcia going out there and getting victory in this one? So maybe I'm a little biased or something. Maybe I'm just looking at these past performances and placing too much on it. And Ryan Garcia maybe he sees something. Maybe it's one of those situations, right? Maybe he sees something. Remember when Eric Morales saw something against Danny Garcia, and he's like, I'm going to go out there, I'm going to get this, I'm going to fight Danny Garcia. I'm going to get some. People are like, what? Man, Eric Morales, man, he's old. He's going to come back. He's going to move up. But wait, he's going to fight Danny Garcia. Are you serious? And in that first fight, he looked good. He did see something. Didn't get the win, but he looked good. Rematch was a different story. But is this one of those situations? All of a sudden, we're looking and we're going to say, he sees something here, and Ryan Garcia sees a flaw that he can exploit, and all of a sudden he's going to go out there and he's going to get this victory because, man, Lord knows I don't. But let me know what you guys think.